Welcoming back Congressman Troy Carter. How are you, sir?
I am doing fine, sir. How are you?
As we inch closer to football season, I just tend to get better. I mean, maybe that's just me.
Did you go to the Saints game this Sunday?
No, I did not. I was listening on the radio for most of it. I was out and about, so I had it on the radio.
It just felt good to be back in the Superdome, although we didn't win.
Nah.
But if you look at it comparatively, the last three quarters really didn't matter. First quarter is what mattered, and we excelled.
Yes.
We had our starters in, or our reasonable second strings in. Mm-hmm. And that's what you need to compare what happened and what the team looks like. I'm encouraged. We were very strong in every statistic in the first quarter when we had our major players in. Then toward the end, we had third, fourth stringers, and that's a good practice squad. But the ones that will be on the turf on Sunday look pretty darn good.
Yeah, I never worry about the final score of a preseason game. It's you tell me something that happens in the first half. And look, we had a lot of defensive highlights early on, and Zach Wilson had some highlights, making himself an argument to be maybe he should be the second string quarterback. So, I walked away feeling really, really positive. Hard not to.
Yep.
We got a lot of ground to cover here. I really want to leave this is kind of out of left field, but we had some news breaking over the course of this week. How involved are you in this Port Nola edition? This international, like, groundbreaking, game-changing, world recognition with the advancements of Port Nola out in St. Bernard Parish. How involved has your office been in the process of making this a reality for business in Louisiana?
Yeah, well, we have been. I've been a huge supporter of our port throughout my years in government. As a member of the council, as a member of the state legislature, now in Congress, have worked tirelessly to get resources and funding to make sure that our port is as competitive as it can be and to reclaim our rightful place as one of, if not the, leaders in cargo and container ship and having the ability to really maximize the breadth and weight and utility of our Mississippi River. Mm-hmm. So, I have worked closely with local and state government, certainly spending time with the community who have registered some concerns and trying to balance those for the greater outcome of what it means for our port to be number one again in jobs, in economy, in opportunity. It's a win-win scenario, and this is a huge win for the state of Louisiana and for our entire region, quite frankly.
Yes, and we're seeing a number of economic wins here in Louisiana, and I'm always curious as to, the backstory behind it, as far as, what levels of cooperation there are.
It's never as easy as it looks on game day.
No.
There's a lot of work behind the curtains. There are a lot of legitimate concerns that we must, and I emphasize must, always take into consideration because communities matter and their concerns matter.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of legwork, a lot of meetings, and a lot of negotiating to ensure that you're creating win-win scenarios, rather it's environmental, traffic, lighting, or what have you. But at the end of the day, this is a win-win, and I think it's a huge, huge victory for our region.
Congressman Troy Carter, our guest. This is D.C. Current, presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. LABI.org is their website if you want to learn more about our state's Chamber of Commerce. All right, let's rewind the clock way back to when you were in the state legislature. You got on this path and created an Office of Women's Health, and now you're looking to replicate that on a federal level. Tell me about it.
Yes, one of my last official acts as a member of the state Senate was to advance the Office of Women's Health, which is now law and standing up in state Louisiana. As I was exiting, I passed it on to my dear friend, who is the president pro tem of the Senate now, Regina Barrow, to get it over the goal line, and it is now law. And now I'm taking the next step of that, which was very great and successful for Louisiana, in opening now State Office of Women's Health Support and Expansion Act. And what this will do is this legislation creates a $55 million grant program. So all states across the country will have the ability to have an Office of Women's Health. Why is that important? Because investment on the front side to preventive care saves literally millions of dollars on the back end. Yep. When we have preventive care, when we are dealing with breast cancer and cervical cancer and those issues that are more prone in females, we are saving the system and taking much needed pressure off of the system, but more important, we're saving lives. Preventive care is significantly cheaper than curative care. But unfortunately, we spend more time seeing people in emergency rooms than we do in preventive circumstances. So in this case, this creating the Women's Health Support Expansion Act is an opportunity for us to support the expansion of women's health offices throughout the country, giving the attention and the health care of individuals the attention that deserves. This bill makes a model available nationwide, giving states resources to build or strengthen offices that address reproductive and mental health, chronic diseases, disparities too many women, especially women of color, and those in rural communities continue to face. This is not something that is just theoretical or hyperbole. Man, this is real. And I believe, and so do my colleagues in a bipartisan way who joined me in this effort, believe that this is something that will save lives and money, a real win-win opportunity.
You said something important right there that I don't want to overlook. You said to create or strengthen. Because I can't imagine a world where we don't already have at least a handful of states that have this. We have one right now in Louisiana. Does your bill work in tandem with those that have already created their offices, or would offices that are already created have to make changes in order to keep up with what your bill's doing?
No. Basically, what it would do, where offices are in place, this provides funding for them to expand. And if you don't have one, the first step is to create one with the enabling model legislation that I drafted in Louisiana. Model it, and then once it's in place, you apply for it and access grants to expand. So it doesn't require any retooling other than this provides funding for expansion.
We got Congressman Troy Carter on with us. I want to pivot over to another topic that I know has been near and dear to your heart because I see it quite frequently. In fact, I was going to say way too often, but you can't be too often. You have teamed up with Congressman. Let's see, it's Neil Dunn and it's Angie Craig working on improving care for Youth Act. Talking about mental health care for children. Tell me all about it.
Let me tell you. As we go through our current laws, whether it's local, state, or federal in this case, we often find such common sense errors that block access to resources. Here's a case in point where if a child's taken into the hospital for one issue and they're determined to have another issue, Medicaid would only allow them to bill for the primary issue that you were there for, meaning the child or his parent has to leave, come back, and wait for another appointment to identify the second ailment. Case in point usually is a kid goes in for one issue and they're determined to have some mental help needed. Well, then they can't get that service because they can't bill for two needs at the same time, which is absolutely ridiculous. Under the current Medicaid policy, healthcare providers generally may only bill for one service per patient a day. Mm-hmm. As a result, children visit primary care physician is identified as needing behavioral or mental health, they're turned away. What this bill will do is, as I stated, it's common sense. No cost fix that removes a bureaucratic barrier standing between the patient and integrated care model that providers already want to deliver. This just takes away the bureaucratic mess. When a doctor identifies a need, behavioral health support, that patient shouldn't have to wait. They should be able to see the provider right now down the hall, get the care they need. This is a life-saving care, common sense measure that I believe, once again, will save money, save lives, and make our system more efficient. Very proud of this.
Yes, it does make common sense on the front end, but my conservatism is going to pop up with a question along the way, and let's talk oversight and guardrail.
I have a very conservative Republican co-sponsoring this with me, but go ahead.
No, oversight. You know where I'm going. Oversight and guardrails. I mean, what is being done to make sure this doesn't turn into an all-you-could-diagnose buffet?
Well, I mean, listen, you cannot cure the world of every ill, every person that attempts to beat the system. But of all of the possible fraudulent acts that someone can commit, probably the least of which, a child goes into the hospital with their mother, father, or guardian, and is determined that this kid has a secondary issue, and you have the capacity in your facility to see them. I mean, it still has to be justified. You can't create an issue. Who wants to go see a doctor and say, I've had mental health needs when you really don't? What's the benefit to the patient? I mean, there's none. So while I certainly appreciate and I share your view that we should always be cognizant and conscious about loopholes or ways for people to abuse the system, this is one where I think baked into it is a natural prohibition and discouraging of such an effort.
I just don't want to see a good idea spoiled, that's all.
Hey, listen, that's fair, and I always appreciate the devil's advocacy because, the questions that you ask are questions that we get in committee, questions that we get on the floor, so it's a very legitimate question, and this is a good sparring match to prepare for floor action, so thanks.
He is Congressman Troy Carter. We'll talk to you next week, sir. Always appreciate the time.